John said to Jesus, "Teacher, we saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he was not following us. We tried to stop him because he was not one of us." I imagine Jesus' words, Jesus' response, becoming a bit more acerbic than the dulcet tones that we just heard. I imagine Jesus boiling over and about to lose his steam. I imagine Jesus trying to rein it in, but then just not. I imagine him thinking, how many times do we need to talk about this? We saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he was not following us. Do not stop him. For no one who does a deed of power in my name will soon be able to speak evil of me. Do not stop him. He was doing a good thing. Do not get in the way of preserving the common good, common health, common safety, common joy, and whatever may be getting in your way of preserving that common well-being. I just feel like Jesus is losing his mind here. Just get rid of it. Whatever's in your way, just let it go. If it's your hand that's getting in your way of preserving the common well-being, just cut your hand off. I feel like Jesus and the disciples may have had more civilized, measured conversations before this, but this happens to be the one where Jesus is just losing it. How many times do we have to go over this? If it is your foot that's in the way, just cut your foot off, because what matters is our common well-being, our ability to be, our ability to love and be loved, our ability to find meaning and value and joy and, yes, God. Whatever it is that is getting in your way of preserving that space for one another and yourself, do whatever it takes to let it go. There's a lot in our neighborhoods, our common worlds and communities, the organizations of which we are a part, anything on the news, that tells us instantaneously that there is actually quite a lot in the way of preserving our common well-being, preserving our space for joy and health and love and belonging. So what do we do? As ones who follow Jesus, as ones who in John's shoes would be those to say, "But I'm following you." Jesus says, "Yes, and." I expect great things of you. Perhaps such a similar situation was on my mind because I was watching a video recording of a school board meeting yesterday. If you've watched any school board meetings lately, you know that basically anywhere you might be in the country, including here in Metro Detroit. They are marked by he said, she said, vitriol, back and forth. He's one of us, she's not one of us. I believe this, I don't believe that, and there is precious little in between. There is precious little discourse, precious few words around our common well-being and safety and joy and health, and in a school board setting, it's the common well-being of students and teachers. This meeting that I was watching was one of these precise instances. He said, she said, he's one of us, they're not one of us. Discourse on both sides of the spectrum, entirely polarized, until about an hour and a half into this 3.5-hour meeting, one voice spoke up to say, hey, let's remember what we're about. Let's pause and listen to the words that are being uttered here. And let's embrace a multiplicity of views and remember what we are about. If we, this voice said, as a school board are forgetting the fact that we are about our students and teachers, then we are about nothing. We are, to use Jesus' word, salt that has lost its saltiness. And if you lose that, then what's it about? This being the beginning of the year, there were even students in that very room. And so this adult voice was saying, remember what you are about. Jesus goes further to suggest that we have salt in ourselves and to be at peace with one another. Salt in ourselves. The vestry and I were wrestling with this passage the other night at our meeting, as it is our practice to discuss an upcoming gospel when we meet. And I think it's fair to say there was a great deal of perplexity in the room. What is Jesus talking about here? What are all these unquenchable fires, and what does salt have to do with fire? We ended up talking about salt. What is salt? Well, salt preserves. Salt was the primary preservative in Jesus' time. You needed it to preserve your food so that you had food for the next day and the day after that. So to have salt in ourselves, then, Jesus is saying, have such integrity in yourself. Bear such words in yourself and out your mouth that provide continuity and stability for that space in which all may thrive and grow to love and serve the Lord. Act and speak in such a way, may the words of your mouth and the meditations of your heart be such that provide the continuity of common well-being. Not just for a day, not just for one conversation, but in the days and weeks and years to come. Live in the long term. The things that you say today, the actions that you make today, bear witness and bear consequences for months and years to come. Be salt. After the vestry meeting, I was still thinking about salt. There's a lot to think about when when it comes to salt. And in the context of this board meeting that I was watching, No show of hands here. But if you were to eat a spoonful of salt by itself, ew. And like, what's the point of that, right? Salt only exists in relationship to others. At the same time, especially thinking of salt as a preservative of meats and other precious food, what is meat by itself? You wouldn't eat it without any salt, nor preservative, nor flavor. Salt exists only in relationship to others. Salt preserves and provides for the longevity of another. Salt enhances the other such that they become more of who they really are, such that their essence comes out and they can thrive and be. Salt provides that common space and flourishing. How do we be salty then? What does salty mean in our common lives? I know for my part, watching a school board meeting and watching my friends and neighbors' reactions to such meeting, observing some on this side of the argument, others on that side of the argument, nobody articulating anything in between. I know the instinct to just ignore it, go on my merry way, trust that the board, they have this. It's their job. They'll figure this out. It doesn't really affect me. Jesus calls us to something more. Jesus calls us as salt to remember that our primary purpose is to be in relationship with another. There is no way to be a Christian without others. It's not a solo activity. To follow Jesus is to let go of any views or fears or other impediments that just get in our way of helping another, helping our communities to thrive. So for me, thinking about how to be salty in my neighborhood, among those I know and among various polarized views, to me, I'm wondering if being salty means to dare to find words in between. To ask my neighbor, whose views I might not understand, tell me about that. What does that mean for you? Tell me about your experience. How did you arrive at that thought? How are you feeling right now? Where does it hurt? It takes courage, saltiness, to find those words and ask those questions and find enough space within oneself to ask and acknowledge and receive. I'm getting a thumbs up from the back. And it is exactly what we are called to do. If we don't, no one will. If we've lost our salt, there's no one who will bring it back except us. If I do not find that courage, do not find those words, do not find that myself, there's no one else who will replace that for me. It's no one's job but my own. Jesus reminds John of this today. Salt is good, and these days we are made salty by fire. Things are hard. And the salt is good. So have salt in ourselves, in yourself, in myself. Be at peace.